something hits us that makes us really have to go deep, it grows us. So I never worry if something's difficult. I always know there's some gold in that trouble. And I sit with the sensation and then I allow wisdom to come to me.
Hey guys, today we have an amazing guest with us. He's Gary Mahler. Gary ran Mahler Industries, a highly regarded CNC manufacturing facility in British Columbia, for more than 20 years before he became a professional personal coach. He has studied, trained, and been certified in mindfulness-based stress reduction with John Kabat-Zinn. Gary works with professionals, creatives, business owners, teams, and mentors other coaches to lead great lives. Gary sees coaching as a powerful means to help people flourish and excel in all of life. I'm happy to welcome Gary Mahler to the show. Thanks, Gary, for coming to the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Konnichiwa, BNS Goku Great. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. どうもありがとうございます。
Domaste.
Gary-san,
I
where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me on Facebook, Gary Mahler on Facebook, on Messenger. Anyone who sends me a message, I reply. I send voice messages. I love just meeting with people and sharing just whatever they send me. So that's a good way. Gary M5 little O or 505. That's also on Instagram. You can see what I'm up to. I rarely post, but I put stories of my life in Tokyo and all over the world. The other way is at restart@garymahler.com.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, my first question is how
Yes.
to live beyond the limited constrict of what we know?
Man, so that's a perfect question because in my idea, I know very little. So how I live beyond what I know, if I know very little, I am really connecting to something that knows everything. So in my way of living, in my stillness, in my quiet time, I connect with something outside of me. And I don't know if you want to call it God, the universe, but within that field of knowledge knows everything. And it's really tricky because if my mind is active and I have very many opinions and I have very much stuff going on, I cannot connect to that. And then I'm connected to very little, which is everything that I know, everything I've learned, everything that I believe. So I just don't really believe what I think very often. And also, it helps to have the ultimate coach. Steve Hardison is my coach. And it also helps to really have a practice of stillness to come to a place of being that I can connect to something greater than myself.
Gary, I thought to ask this question a little bit later, but I think this is the perfect time to ask. How to come back to stillness after rushing through life?
Wow, that's a great question because when I was running Mahler Industries, I was rushing through life all of the time. My body was today, my mind was 3 weeks in advance, always in production, thinking what's a month in advance, never here. Always trying to make everything happen for the future. How do we come back to stillness? It's a slowing down. For me, a slowing down is before bed. When I wake up in the morning, it's time for myself. Yesterday, I had a very busy, not great day. It was really not a great day. So how I slowed down, I took care of all of my immediate tasks and I went out to Tokyo. Like I went to Daikanyama. I live right nearby there. I just sat on a bench in a little kind of pathway that they created. And I just sat in the sun and I just sat and the sun was on my face and I just slowed down and I just let everything that I was worried about, stressed about, thinking about settle down. I followed my breath and I just listened. I just listened to not my thoughts, but something beyond. And then just an idea comes, another idea comes. And I remember walking home and just knowing exactly what to do for the rest of the day. Knowing, I prepared a beautiful dinner, my son's favorite dinner. He loves spaghetti carbonara. I learned it in Italy when I was younger. My best friend's mom taught me the authentic way to make it. I made dinner. I was with my family. I went to bed and had a good night's sleep, woke up, and then clarity, clarity.
Thanks, Gary, for sharing that. Gary, how to live at the speed of life?
The speed of life. So, first, let's define what the speed of life is. The speed of life is what's going on in your life currently. BNS Goku Great, what's going on in your life? Anyone who's listening, what's going on in your life? Currently, my speed of life is I'm with BNS Goku Great. After this, I'll be going to the gym for an hour and a half doing some training. My kids will come home from school. They're going to be testing out or trials for swimming lessons. And then I've got a weekend with my family. That's the speed of life, not light, but I've taken care of my life so that I could be present in each moment. Prior to meeting you, I took care of all of my business needs. I took care of everything that I needed to take care of. So I'm never really rushing, but I call something a proactive urgency. So there's no urgency in this moment, but I'm proactive to everything I do. Then I create from that place.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to remain unscathed and worry free no matter what happens outside or inside of us?
Wow. That came from my I am. No matter what happens inside of me or outside of me, I remain unmoved and worry free. Nothing moves or shakes me, even when I'm shaken and stirred. I find joy in all of life. Yesterday, when I went for that walk, some things shook me. Some things occurred. Some people said some things, and some stuff happened. So there was some movement, like an earthquake in Tokyo. But buildings in Tokyo, they just go like this so they don't fall down. I did the same thing. I followed my breath. There was an uncomfortable sensation inside of me. And I just sat with it and I breathed. And that's what I was doing in the sun. And say, even though I don't like this sensation, that's an interesting sensation. Some people said some things that I wasn't really fond of. And I was like, that's an interesting sensation. That's all right. I can be with this. I use everything in my life. So from that, I worked with Steve on something. When something hits us that makes us really have to go deep, it grows us. So I never worry if something's difficult. I always know there's some gold in that trouble. And I sit with the sensation and then I allow wisdom to come to me. So I love it all. I love the good days. I love the bad days. I love when my kids behave. I love when my kids don't behave. I love when my wife's unhappy with me. I love when she's happy with me. I learn from everything. And it's not like I'm trying to say everything is perfect. I'm like, no, I'm very realistic. This feels really not so great, but I can be with not so great. Come back to the breath, come back to life. And then I find joy in all of life, all of it. And that allows me to have this beautiful adventure of living in Tokyo for a year and a half before moving back to Vancouver, to going to Mumbai for a week and enjoying everything in Mumbai. And there's so much to enjoy. And if you're not from India or Mumbai, there's so much to be annoyed with. But I didn't want to be annoyed with anything. I wanted to love all of the confusion. I wanted to love trying to cross the street without getting run over. I had the best time ever.
Awesome, Gary. Gary, how can we compress time?
Wow, that's a great question. So, for me to compress time in anything that I do, instead of rushing out to do whatever first occurs to me, I take the time to connect to something greater than me. And with that, I'm able to do everything in small moves, but very effortless, powerful moves. So I compress time by listening deeply, speaking from spirit, speaking from my wisdom. And then within that, I always know what to do and I always know how to do it. I always know what to say and I always know what not to say. I can compress time in doing the most powerful thing in the most effortless way. But I have to come from a place of my limited knowledge keeps me small. If I'm open to all of life, I'm able to do big moves and take care of things. So that's how I compress time. and just make it smaller.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, what did you learn from John Kabat-Zinn?
Man, everything that I'm speaking to, I learned to really dance, as he calls it, dance in the full actuality of life, to allow all of life to be the way it is. And when it moves or shakes me, to follow my breath. And in the breath, it calms my body down, calms my mind down. And John also speaks to there are no in between moments. Most people are doing something to get somewhere else without really being present. I learned presence. And it's so funny because now, 13, 14 years ago, I lived in Tokyo for 2 years. And like Mumbai, it's a monster city. Like everything's going, trains are going. I learned stillness in 2 years there by just reading a book that he wrote, Wherever You Go, There You Are, and just spending time in cafes and just sitting with my breath and then actually creating my current life. So back in 2008 to 2010, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, but I was creating the life that I currently have. And oddly enough, here I am back in Japan living fully.
Sugoi desu ne.
すごい。本当にすごい。東京、すごい。
Hi. uh, Gary-san,
はい。
why do you love all of life? How to be in love with every part of life, even hard parts? Or we can say, how do we cultivate ways to love the lives we are living?
It's so funny because yesterday it was so easy to not love all of life. So it's so perfect. And I thought about this as I was sitting. I'm going to be talking with you. And it's like, man, how do we cultivate loving all of life? Well, for me, if you've read the book of being and it speaks to the document, my whole first year with working with Steve Hardison, we created my document. In my document, I create myself daily, and that's who I am, no matter what happens inside of me or outside of me. So prior to meeting Steve Hardison, I had many judgments about myself. I listened to myself in a way that was not powerful, and Steve helped me to see if I look at all of my non powerful listenings, if I see where I judge myself as being rejected or being something, that will be an undercurrent that will be carrying me. So all I did was list all of my judgments against myself, and there were pages and pages of them. And I sat in stillness and I forgave myself for judging myself as rejected, for instance. I went through every time in my life I felt rejected till there was nothing and there was a space. And from that space, I created, for the truth is, I am free. So in my I am statement, I am free means no one can reject me. You can say, Gary, I will not interview you. You suck, and it won't make any difference. I'll be fine. So I create myself. I am free. This is another part of my statement. Because I'm free, I love, serve, acknowledge, and bless the person in front of me, which I do to you right now. No one's worthy of my cynicism. I won't be cynical against you. People are only worthy of my love. Because I create my life in this way, I take empowered action and I'm fearless, bold, and courageous. So you can see within that, if I create that every day, I can be with my wife and children powerfully. I'm able to be with something, and if something's not quite right, I don't have to yell or do something. In the moment, I can be with this, and all of life is my creation. I call it 100% material to work with. I have 100% of all of life to work with, and I'm not choosy about what is, but I'll love everything. And if I love everything, if I love the parts of me that are kind of guja guja, shiteru guja guja, nihongo,
I,
guja guja. It's like if something's not right, I'm able to deal with it. I'm able to be with it. I'm able to play with it. Much like I see you when I saw you at the experience, you were playing with everything. You love playing with things, asking people questions. It's beautiful. That's how I can be with in love with all of life.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, Can you describe the miracles of the mundane?
The miracles of the mundane. So the mundane is something like this. The mundane is everyday life. The mundane is this morning I woke up and then was with my kids, helping them do their homework at this table before they eat. I was preparing them for the day. The mundane is going to the gym. The mundane is doing the dishes, making a coffee, all of the little things that people just take for granted. I take nothing for granted. And to me, the divine is in the mundane. It's in the small things, being kind to someone, taking time to look in their eyes, being kind to myself. So much like John Kabat-Zinn says, there's no in between moments. I love all of life. I love each of the little moments, even taking a walk. I love my neighborhood. Like to me, just walking to the station. I love getting on a train. I love the smallest of things. And I don't need a lot of expensive things to make me happy. Man, I create my own happiness through the small things and how I experience life.
Thanks, Gary, for sharing that. Gary, how to be content with the present, how to be home wherever we are at.
It's funny because up until I lived in Paris for 2 years when I was just out of university. And up until then, I was never at home. And as soon as I got to Paris, 2 years living in Paris, I was at home. The reason why I was at home, I was on my own and I experienced everything fully. I came back from Paris, created or built up Mahler Industries. I wasn't at home. It's not what I wanted to do. It was easy, not easy, it was hard, but I mean, it was right in front of me. In being where I want to be, choosing, I'm home wherever I am. I was home in Mumbai. I chose to be at home in Mumbai. And there's things I hadn't seen before, but I was so open to whatever I'm going to see, I'm going to find joy in. I'm this is what I constantly am doing wherever I am. I'm choosing to be at home within my body, within my mind, within my soul. And then I'm a local wherever I am. And I'm able to really relate to people from a place of love, a place of joy, a place of service and giving. And I'm on this journey that I'm always learning, I'm always growing. It's like, man, I don't know how many more years that I have, but I'm choosing to love every moment. When my kids wake up, I go to get them in bed and they're still in bed and I just look at them and they just say, hello. And then their eyes open and they smile and I hug them and I bring them. And then, my wife loves them to do a bunch of stuff. So then I ease them into it and they start doing it. And if they're finicky, I play with them. That's, to me, everything is just so beautiful and miraculous.
Quality time remaining.
You got it. Quality time remaining. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm going to enjoy this body. I'm going to enjoy every music I listen to, every song I listen to. Be in this home. Just enjoy.
Yes, Gary. Gary, many people are stuck in how to do this or how to get this. When it comes to the stuff of the heart or dreams, why
Mhm.
how is not that important?
Oh, I'd say how is very important, but it's not the first thing to look at. Most people are looking at how would I do this? How would I do this? And if they're at a very low place in terms of where their thinking is or where their heart is, how from that place is really not powerful. So the being, if we can raise ourselves, so Steve Chandler calls it the ladder of consciousness. At the bottom, you've got consciousness where you've got sadness, death. If you're trying to create from there, the how is never really going to be powerful. I work with my clients and we bring their consciousness up to here from a place much like you operate and I operate from up here. Then we can listen to something, we can see things beyond. You can imagine if you're up here, you can see more. If you're down here, you don't see much. So once you get to that place, and you talk to people, you listen with powerful listening, the how becomes very, very clear. Everything that I do, how did I get to be in Tokyo, in the part of Tokyo, the best part of Tokyo, where I didn't even know this part of Tokyo existed. I knew 10 minutes this way, 10 minutes that way, but I'm in a place where I can walk everywhere. How did we find this home, which is perfect, 4 minutes to my kid's school? We can walk every. A year ago on this time, man, I was still living in Vancouver. I didn't know how I would get into Japan because it was closed until October because of COVID. How? I don't know how. So I remember working with Steve. Steve, I can't get into Japan. There's someone who can get you in, but Steve, there's no way I can get into Japan. No, don't worry about the how. Who would you have to be to find the way to get into Japan? And I found the way to get into Japan before they opened up. So, man, who would I need to be? I needed to not be the guy that I won't get in. I needed to not be the guy afraid. So that way of being then opens up. So any of the goals that I have for myself, increasing my business, it's not a matter of how. It's like, who am I being? What's going on in here and here? How do I speak of myself? How do I listen to people? It's being. And then the one thing that's very clear, if you're just being and doing nothing, nothing moves unless something happens. So I always take the being, and then from that, empowered action. You put those together, it's the two wings of a bird that fly. Oh, everything is possible from this place. Everything is possible.
Yes, Gary. Gary, what did you learn from Steve Hardison?
Oh man, how to live, how to be alive, how to love myself unconditionally, how to hear hard truth from my wife or Steve or anyone who will tell me, and how to say, okay, so what? So what if this is not quite right or I need to work on this? So what? Now what? I learned, man, I've been working with him since 2018, and I would bring the most mundane of things that most people wouldn't even think twice, but they were like a little block in my heart. And from opening that little block, suddenly I could see all of life. And then from there, I would just take action that I wouldn't have taken from that small place. We opened it up. But I learned how to live. I learned how to serve. Learned how to love. I learned how to listen. I learned how to be open to possibility that I couldn't have seen. So everyone who was in that room at the ultimate experience, and it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever experienced, you got to see perfect service in a imperfect human being. He shared when he got angry about the garbage. Man, that's perfect. To realize he had done something wrong and then to say, or not correct, and then to fix it. I learned to be like that in my own way. I learned that I can be Gary, who doesn't do a lot of stuff that a lot of people do. And I can be in this way with my wife and family and have an international business that grows every year. Man, that's all Steve.
Thanks, Gary, for sharing that. Gary, what happens if we live our life loving ourselves unconditionally?
If I can love myself unconditionally, I can love you unconditionally. I can love people I disagree with unconditionally. I've got a hope of having peace inside of my life. I have a hope of loving my kids, my in laws, people I don't necessarily think I like. It all stems within. If I love what's in here, what I create out there is love. I love all of my thoughts. Even sometimes thoughts come in, that person is weird. That's not what I like. This is terrible. The only way I could survive in Mumbai is I'm open. If a thought comes up, I don't believe it. Why do they do this? Why is it like this? Well, it is this way. Why is there no traffic lights? Well, because you have to cross the street and you just learn how to cross the street. After 2 days, I learned how to cross the street. It was an adventure. So what? how I'm being with life determines everything. It starts with self acceptance. I love every thought. I love everything going on inside of me. I love every judgment. And if I love the judgment, it dissipates. Nothing I think holds on to me because I love it.
Awesome, Gary. Awesome. Gary, what's the importance of I want that in your life?
Oh, you got that one. Year 2000, seeing the Buddha in Nara, Japan. I was stressed out. Really a nice guy, a really nice guy when everything went my way, and really not a nice guy when I got angry. And I just saw that peace in the Buddha, and I just said, oh my God, I want that. And I don't know, it just came out. And I really believe there is something in the declaration of, oh my God, there's something here that's not quite right. And then declaring, I want that. Something inside shifts and something outside of me hears this, something heard. So the internal, I want that, has me act in different ways than I would have. So let's say I want that. Let's say if you want something, most people say, I want that in order to get something, to feel something. My I want that is, no, there's a desire inside of me. Who am I going to be as I create that thing that I want? So it's a different place to come from. My I want that regarding peace, it was for something greater than me. My I want that in my business is, man, I want to be a powerful personal coach for the world. The most powerful coach for the world, not in the world. I don't know. How can you rank? Maybe Steve's the most. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. My world. But I want that. I want to be the most loving husband and father. It's funny, I'm taking some Japanese lessons and they wanted to see where I am in Japanese. So they called me up in the city of Shibuya and they wanted to see if I'm level 3 or not. And she asked, Shumi wa nen desu ka? And I said, Okusan to kodomo. So what that means, like, what are your hobbies? And I said, my wife and kids. And she laughed. She goes, I've never heard a man say that his wife and kids are his hobbies. I said, all I want is my wife and kids and be love to them. I want that, then I am that.
Hmm.
It comes.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to cultivate infinite patience?
It really helps if you have people in your life who make you impatient. So having a boy 10 and a daughter 7, they help me cultivate it daily because the boy has ideas, the girl has ideas, they're fighting. Man, am I going to be angry with them? And my son, my kids, they call Steve Hardison Stevie. They go, oh, I'm so glad that when you started working with Stevie, because you used to get angry at me daily, maybe twice a day. I don't remember it that way, but he does. But I'll take his word for it. Daddy, I have so much patience. You have so much patience. You just love me. You just spend time with me. Oh, so with them, it's like living here. When it's later, they have things going on till 8 o'clock. It's a bit dark, so I go to pick them up. They don't need me. In Vancouver, they need me to pick them up in the car. Here, they can do everything, take a train by themselves. I love going at 8 o'clock when he plays soccer, and then he comes and he hugs me and he holds my hand and tells me what's going on. And some kids were bullying him, or this happened. And I love going with my daughter in Tokyo, and just the more that I allow them to act out and then calm myself down, calm them down, I create patience. I'm playful. I'm patient. In that playful patience, there's a freedom. So I don't need to rush into fixing things or saying things or explaining things. I used to kill the present moment. I was always impatient. Now I'm patient with myself, even if I don't do the right thing or I make a mistake. I cultivate infinite patience daily, every moment by moment.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to become the person I needed to be to create the life I desire?
I'll refer back to just, if you haven't read the book, read the book of being. The pages in the back, pages in the front. Read it as if it's about you. My kids listen to their favorite parts when Stevie was young. Oh my God, what would this be like? So they're hearing it as if it's them. And from that place, they learn how to be if someone's not nice to them, or if someone's bullying them, or if something's going on. And if you're a bit older, create yourself with your document. Create a document. If you don't know how, reach out to people. There's multiple people that are reaching out to me. I help them with their own document. My clients, they get the full meal deal. They get to come to Hawaii with me. And if we spend 2 days together, all we do is work on their being so that their document comes in, and then they end up with a beautiful document that they can live into. Man, I just see I am infinite stillness, born of ease and flow. I'm pure connection to the all powerful, and I create what it wants, and I always get what I want without asking, all the time. I love my wife, Kanako, my son, Koan, my daughter, Kona, with all my might. I lay my life down for them. I cultivate that all the time.
Gary, why beginning our day in solitude is important?
The morning time, you just wake up and you kind of have retired from the day before. The day before is over. You've slept. It's a clean slate. In that time, I just sit and I just take time with a coffee and I just sit, maybe some music, and I see what comes to me. Oh, today I'm going to be with BNS, Goku the Great. I'm going to prepare for that. If I have time to prepare for something, I'll always succeed at what I'm doing. I prepare for every client this way before I have them. In Tokyo, I start working at 4 a.m. until about 10. I wake up early so I can prepare. I prepare for the day. I'll have a weekend. I'll prepare for the day by getting up early so that whatever we do, I'll be prepared for the kids so I can be extra loving. If we don't prepare for the day, and I didn't when I was running Mahler Industries, you get up, you go to the gym. Everything is rushing. Within this, the preparation creates everything. At night, before bed, I'll sneak into bed with the kids, and then we'll listen to the Ultimate Coach book, and we'll listen. They'll fall asleep with it, or we'll listen to a podcast. We'll fall asleep, or we'll talk, or we'll look at Instagram stories together. But we'll be together. They go to sleep knowing that they're loved, for instance, and my kids know when they wake up they're loved. I do the same thing for myself.
Gary, you mentioned that you get coached for 1 hour by spirit every day. What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's this stillness that I spoke to. And it's a bit different than that. It's kind of, I'm coached by spirit throughout the day. So in the morning, throughout the day. Yesterday it was a couple of hours in Tokyo. Before being on here with you, it was just sitting. I call it, Steve and I created something. He said, "Oh, I'd like you to ask spirit every day what it wants from you." And I said, "Well, how about I sit in stillness and I let spirit tell me what to ask?" So it's like this thing of stillness, and then it tells me. So just a solitude, quieting the mind, allows me to know what this day is for. And you would be surprised that in stillness, when something tells me, please reach out to this person, please do this, please do that, see how they're doing, it's a life of service. So if you don't have that, and if my day is completely packed, I mean, when I went to Mumbai, I knew I wanted to meet certain people, but I'd kept my calendar completely clear. So if someone wanted to be with me, they could come to me, I could go to them, and I met the right people. And everyone that said they wanted to meet me, I met. And even in the event, I just remember anyone who came to me for whatever time, I would just be open. I would hug. I remember hugging for 5 minutes some people because that's what they needed. And I don't know. I never know. How did I know? I just knew that we wanted to live in Tokyo for a year. It's going to be a year and a half because my home that's being built in Vancouver is taking longer. It's going to be ready early next year. It was supposed to be ready in August. Thank God I get to be here much longer.
Yes.
Before I came online, I was just planning. I've got a retreat that I'm creating in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and certain people are coming. And I don't know, there's going to be certain people, 2 days, people will be with me. I don't even know who some of the people are, but I'm just going to be booking 2.5 weeks and people will be coming. So I just book without even knowing. I got half the people there, but the people will come. I just know. That comes from stillness. It just tells me what to do.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, sometimes we make ourselves wrong for being human. Why should we allow the wholeness of our human experience instead of spending time on fixing being human?
No. So I don't know if we should do anything, but we get a gift of, if I'm a human being that loves a human being, like being a human being, I don't have to fix anything. I don't need to go into therapy. Not that therapy is wrong. I don't need to go into feeling bad about anything. But if we can cultivate self forgiveness, if we can cultivate a way of being that's open, I don't really need to fix very much. My wife says I could lose 3 kilo. Great. So what am I going to do? Thank you. Okay, I can do that. So what am I going to do? I go to the gym every day. She cooks beautiful meals. There's a salad ready for me with protein after. What am I going to do? I'm in no rush for anything. I love eating and drinking. I do that. And she says, this would be good. I'm studying nutrition. We got to get healthier. Beautiful. Why not? Let's go.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to allow surrender to come to us? How to choose creation from surrender and acceptance?
Ah. This comes straight from the Way of Mastery, which I studied for 2 years before hiring Steve. So there's something in it that says all events are neutral. Like, how can all events be neutral? If I break this cup, is that neutral? Like, this falls down. Is it neutral? Break my iPhone. Is it neutral? Well, on its own, it's neutral. So what I do then is, whatever happens, it happened, and I allow that to be there. I allow that I'm sad that something happened. I allow that, oh, this got me angry. I allow every human part of me to happen. So with that, then I can follow the breath, be with this, let things calm down, connect with something greater than myself. And then at that point, from that surrender, I'm not creating from a reaction or from anger or lashing out. I'm like, okay, yeah, that I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like this situation. So I let things settle before I do anything. So any communication I have, I've sat with, and it will be powerful, but it will be respectful. It will be kind. My mom says, Gary, I don't know how you always get what you want. You always get the best table. You always get something, because I just come from this place of, if someone tells me something, that will not happen. Okay. If that won't happen, what's the best we can do? How can we help this? How can we make this? Steve calls it a reported on world versus a created world. Most people have a reported on world, that it's this way. In Japan, everything, it's this way. I don't know if you know dekinai. Dekinai means we can't do it. They're dekinai. Can we have this? Dekinai. Can't do it. I don't come from dekinai. I come from dekimas. That means I can do it. I know that in my being, I can work with whatever is. I surrender to something. I don't force it. In that not having something to push against, there's nothing to push against. I surrender. I accept. And then from that place, I can always create something. If we're always pushing against something, that's a lot of work.
Mm.
I saw you and Laban having some kind of a race or something. I didn't watch it, but so it's like, man, I don't do, like, for me, like, I just surrender to what is, and from there I create from whatever I've surrendered to. 100% material. to work with.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to master the art of being present?
First of all, fall in love if you're not present. First of all, realize you're not being present. Much like we said before, don't be upset that you're a human being that's not present. And then we take the small steps to presence. For me, it was following the breath. The breath is everything. Even during this interview, I'm always following the breath. When I'm out, I'm following the breath. If something's not quite right in my body, I'm following the breath. The breath really brings us back to the present moment. Other people use mantras, there's different ways, but my whole way is what's occurring. I'm always seeing what's occurring in here, and how is what is occurring in here creating how I relate to out there. I just take that time, and then I'm able to float through life, glide through life, create.
Thanks, Gary. Gary, how to be a better parent?
Unconditional love of your children, your spouse, and yourself. I create every day that I love my wife, son, and daughter with all my might. I create every day that I'm freedom, living in patience and playfulness. For me, I create this being a better parent by knowing that all that I have is this family. I was telling my wife today, like, Tokyo, you could do anything you want in this city, like anything. It's amazing. Amazing food, amazing things. Like, you could get in all kinds of trouble if you'd want to. Man, my shumi, my hobby is my wife and kids. All I want to do is be the best daddy for my kids. All I want to do is be the best husband for my wife and create an adventure for us four. So it's a declaration, it's created, but it's loving this and loving them, no matter what. The other day, my son we've got a little day bed behind us over there, and he was crying when I came home. My wife's like, I don't know what's wrong. So I just said, hey, Kwan, do you want to go for a walk? I took him by the hand. We went all over. It was dark out in Tokyo. We got him a little treat at the convenience store. And after 3 minutes, he just opened up, not about what happened. I didn't need to know what happened, but he just said, Daddy, how did you know to just take me out because I was sad? And I said, I didn't. I just figured you could use that before dinner. And it's really weird. Hours later, when we're going to sleep, I said, what happened? Can you tell me what happened? He goes, I was at soccer and the ball hit me in the face and it really, really hurt. Like, really hurt. And everyone laughed at me and I was super embarrassed. And I said, you probably didn't cry then. He goes, I didn't cry then because I didn't want them to laugh at me even more, even though they're laughing at me. And then I said, and you cried in the bed because that was the time you could cry. And he goes, I cried because they laughed. I cried because it hurt. I cried because it's hard a little bit in Tokyo because, I know the language, but it's not my first language. And thank you, Daddy, for just not even asking me when I wasn't ready to just be with me. That's everything. When I work with my clients, we'll make the big stuff happen, but unless you have the joy in the little stuff, there's no sense. Because pretty quickly you grow old and you die. And all people are going to remember is how you made them feel, how you treated them, how you were with them. All you're going to remember, how were you with yourself every day? Goes back to that self-love. I love being a human. I love this experience because when I die, I don't know what the next experience is. I love this experience. I love every part of it. I love flying to Mumbai. I love being in Mumbai. I love going to Mexico City. I love whatever comes next today, and I don't know what comes next after this. Either I go to the gym, like I do know that, but what will happen there, I don't know. And I know I'll be with my wife and kids in this beautiful day of Tokyo. And I don't know what we'll do this weekend, but we're going to do what we do together. BNS, if I can live this way and love all of life, and I got a pretty magical life, like to leave Vancouver, to sell my home and move to Vancouver, and then have a new home being built and run an international business. What a spectacular life. To be invited to Mumbai and be on stage with Becky Robbins and Alok, and then be with Ranjan and be with you and be with everyone, beautiful people in the room. Like, what a life.
Awesome, Gary. Gary, how to die young in spirit, vibrant, and alive?
Mm. So one of the things that I loved when John Kabat-Zinn says he wrote a thesis on he who dies before he dies never dies. So to me is I died to life. I died to whatever is occurring. I'm alive. I don't know how much time I have. I remember last year at this time we were going to sell our home, and I told this is the only home my kids ever had. Like when we lived in Vancouver, they were going to leave their school, they were going to leave home, they were going to leave everything. We're going to sell our car. I said, really enjoy everything because in a few months it's gone. And I didn't want them to be fatalistic about it, but we enjoyed everything. And now I say, do you miss home? No, I'm in my home. Do you miss our car? We called it the Ecto 110. I don't know if you know Ghostbusters, but Ecto 1 is the Ghostbusters car. Our Forerunner was the Ecto 1. Do you miss it? No. I love everything. I love where we're at. So that's how I live into it. Really being present in every moment and breathing into every moment, not preferring something over something else. I can be present and in this moment, and everything's created in the present moment. Everything, me sitting here was created a year ago in the present moment, a year ago, in my being. What I'm creating next year is in my being right now. Me creating the clients that are going to meet me in Hawaii in November. After this call, I'm going to book November 18th to December 5th. I'm going to book it. That's there. I'll be there. Got some people already coming, and a couple of more. Done.
Gary, last question. Would you like to issue a 7-day challenge to our subscribers?
Whatever you are going to challenge yourself on for 7 days, don't do it. For me, 7 days of no challenges, 7 days of doing nothing, 7 days of allowing what is and noticing what is. So in my challenge, there's no challenge other than awareness of your life for 7 days. Pay attention to what's going on in your mind when something happens you don't like. Pay attention to when you wake up and you think you got to do something or you need to do something to get better, yoga to get better, meditation to get better. I have no challenge for anyone other than pay attention. Pay attention to how you're being with yourself and life. And if you don't like what you see after the 7 days, re-listen to what I'm sharing with you and see what works. Read the book. But for 7 days, do nothing and just pay attention. For 2 years in Tokyo, I paid attention to pretty much every day there's going to be something I don't like. How am I going to relate to what I don't like? I paid attention. So my challenge is, if you have a challenge, don't do it. Pay attention. Don't do anything but breathe and pay attention. Notice what's going on. And if you don't like what you see, I call it this way: God, the universe, is a perfect accountant. what you see in your life is a perfect accounting to how you've been in your life. And if you don't like it, don't do anything for that week and start reading the book of being again and start changing who you're being without being too particular or upset with what you got. You got what you got, or my son says, you get what you get. Don't be upset. I love that. If you know who you are, people can't call you a name and tell you who you are. A week, just be with yourself, be with what's going on, and see if you like it or don't, and don't try and change it. If there's sensations you don't like, breathe with them. Whatever you don't like, write it down and say, this is what I'd like different. I want to learn Japanese, so I'm going to be starting Japanese classes, and everything that I do, I practice. Guess what? My Japanese will improve. You want to be more loving? Just see where you're not loving. Love yourself that you're not loving. So that's my challenge. No challenge, but pay attention.
ありがとう、ガリさん。話してくれてどうもありがとうございます。
Oh my God, you're just the best.
い
I,
や、
I,
で
I, I love your energy, and I love just your open level of service and giving. You give yourself so freely, and then you interview people so that you can gain something in a short period of time, and then you can share that with the world. I'm just so honored to be with you, especially after being in Mumbai together at this experience, so we could just bring this and keep this alive for everyone who was there, and also anyone who wasn't there, so we can bring this way of being to the world as a possibility that every one of the listeners can be fully themselves, love themselves as they are, and then they can grow into who they desire to be growing into, who they were meant to grow into. If we can all do this, world peace is like that. If we can be like this, we can love our parents, our children, we can love our enemies. You want to know what I learned from Steve Hardison? All of the above. BNS Goku, great.